All right, Gail, I think we're up and running. So is it okay if I go ahead and kick off this party?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Cool. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. Good morning, I should say, if you're on the West Coast. Thanks to all of you for being here on a Monday. It's going to be a fun one because we're here to talk about building a high-performing major gifts program. And my name is Stephen Shattuck, and I'm the Chief Engagement Officer over here at Bloomerang. And I'll be moderating today's discussion, as always. And just a couple of housekeeping items real quick. Just want to let you all know that we are recording this session, and we'll be sending out the recording as well as the slides later on today. So if you have to leave early, that's okay. We hate to lose you, but if you have to, if you got into a meeting or something, we'll get you all that good stuff. You can review the content. And if you stick around for the whole thing, you can share that content with a colleague or a boss or whatever you want to do. Most importantly, as you're listening today, please feel free to use that chat box right there on your webinar screen. We're going to try to save some time at the end for Q&A. So send us your questions and comments along the way. We'll try to get to them at the end. We love for it to be interactive, so don't be shy at all. You can do that on Twitter as well. I'll keep an eye on the Twitter stream there. And if you're having any trouble with your audio through your computer, try dialing in by phone for the audio. We find that is usually a lot better than the computer speakers. So do that if you can, if that's comfortable for you. If you won't bother a coworker or anything, just dial the number in the email from ReadyTalk that went out around noon Eastern. And if this is your first Bloomerang webinar, just want to say an extra special welcome to you folks. We do these webinars just about every week. We bring in a great guest like Gail, totally educational, no sales pitch, but I will give a little commercial for Bloomerang right now. If you're interested in our donor management software, check out our website. Don't do that right now. Do that in about an hour. Got a great presentation coming up. From one of my favorites, Gail Perry is joining us today. She is a longtime webinar presenter for Bloomerang, definitely one of our favorites. Hey, Gail, how's it going? You doing okay today?
I'm just great. So glad to be visiting with everybody.
Yeah, I'm just going to brag on you real quick. I don't want to take up any more time away from you. But if you guys don't know Gail, you got to follow her. You got to check out firedupfundraising.com. Excellent resources. If you see her name on a conference schedule, on another webinar, definitely go to that session. She's awesome. She's been doing this for over 30 years. She has raised hundreds of millions of dollars literally throughout her career. Like I said, speaks a lot, does a lot of training, writes a lot. She's got a great, great book called Fired Up Fundraising, which is all about turning those board members into passionate fundraisers, which we all want to do, of course. Loves major gifts. She does a lot of writing for other publications like GuideStar, Capital Campaign Masters. All around a beautiful human being, too. So you don't want to hear from me. You're here to hear from Gail. So, Gail, I will let you take it away, my friend. Give us all that major gift advice. Go for it.
All right. Well, you are so cool, Stephen. Thank you so much. Everybody, it's terrific to be with you today. And how about doing me a favor? Why don't you type into the question box your organization and where you're located, because it'd be so much fun to see who's here and what kind of organizations are here. You know, we have a rich and vigorous nonprofit community all over the world that come in for these fabulous webinars from Bloomerang. And by the way, I highly recommend Bloomerang software, and he's not paying me to say this. United Way, Johns Hopkins, our friends in the Dakotas, San Diego, look at everybody. Salvation, Ontario, Idaho, Charlottesville, Wichita, Dallas, New York, Massachusetts. This is just terrific. Welcome, welcome, everybody. And it's a little bit more about me. Yeah, you know, you heard I'll just skip over this. But I was tickled to be named one of America's top 10 fundraising experts. That's sort of a cool thing. Hello, Mary Kay and Kevin and Lisa and Barbara. Thank y'all so much for letting me know. Mary Kay says, come down to AFP Icon in March for the big AFP conference. I'll be there. So let's talk about major gift fundraising, because there's so many obstacles that stand in people's way. And one of the biggest obstacles I find is that people don't understand why it's so important. And today we're going to talk about those obstacles. I'm going to give you some tips on how to overcome your limiting beliefs, which I think a lot of it happens in our head. One of the issues is time, how to get into the office. I've got some strategies to help you. We'll talk a little bit about board members and how to get them on board. And we're going to end. Please don't, you can leave early if you have to, but the grand finale is going to be the structure. You do not have a major gifts effort unless you have the structure underpinning it, and that's we're going to hammer that in right at the end of our session today. So let's talk briefly about why major gift fundraising is the most efficient and the most effective way to raise money. And this is a slide I use a lot in my presentations. You might have seen it. It's from Greenberg's book on fundraising, which is one of the CFRE books. And it's also a general rule of thumb that fundraising events, if you add in the staff time required for a fundraising event, you're looking at about 50 cents on the dollar for raising that money. And the annual fund takes about 25 cents or 30 cents on the dollar. But major gifts that involve high dollar one-on-one asks only cost 5 to 10 cents on the dollar. So if you're really looking for profitability in your fundraising strategies, choose a strategy for fundraising that's going to yield you the biggest dollar return for the amount of time and energy you're investing. There's no question that major gifts and capital campaigns are based in major gift fundraising. They're the shortcut for getting the money that your organization really needs. And a friend of mine who heads up a hospice facility in North Carolina said that she and her staff just killed themselves to raise about $100,000 from a big event, and they were just exhausted. And she said, I could have gone out with 4 or 5 donors and raised that amount of money and saved us all that pain and anguish. So I think it's really important when you're discussing your fundraising strategies at the beginning of your fiscal year and you can use me as political cover. You know, you can sort of innocently ask, what is our fundraising strategy? Do we want to focus on areas that are going to be the most efficient ways to raise money so we're not just spinning our wheels? And this is some data from the Fundraising Effectiveness Project that we talk a lot about these days. And I want to focus on the green circle on the right-hand side of the page. And actually, I blew it up right here in this slide. And what they're saying really is that 90% of the revenue across the board in all these organizations that were studied came from 15% of donors. And, you know, Jerry Panis and many of the fundraising greats have always said it's 90-10, you know, 90% of the money comes from 10% of the donors. And it's if you really look at your funding sources in your organization, you probably have a handful of key funders who are providing a majority of your funding. And that includes individuals and major donors of all types. So focusing here is a no-brainer, right? It's a no-brainer. So I think use these slides to go to your board members and ask the innocent questions. I have a great post on my blog called Asking the Cage-Rattling Questions About Fundraising Strategy. Because lots of times we're in a position of convincing our board members and our CEO what strategies really are the smartest. So I'm always happy to back you up with data that will help you. And so let's talk a little bit about the obstacles. What is holding your organization back? And I'm wondering if you could please, again, answer in the question box and share with me your thoughts. What is holding your organization back from raising major gifts? I did a survey last year, and it was fascinating to hear everybody's perspective on the challenges that they face. So lack of potential donors, board support, staff capacity, too many competing tasks, lack of knowledge on how to do it, lack of clear processes. One board member, low public visibility, don't know where to start, distracted by other fundraising tasks. Carving time to get out. Not many major, wow, this is fascinating, board buy-in, such an important issue. Not enough qualified candidates. Lack of a culture of philanthropy. Scarcity thinking. Oh, I love that one. Thank you. Not enough prospects. Too much time on one funder. Ooh, Cecilia, I feel your pain. So listen, guess what? You are not alone. These issues happen with everybody. And we are dealing in a nonprofit environment. I was just reading the Agitator blog post today about donor retention, that the fact is that nonprofit staff is always stretched too thin. And setting our priorities and focusing is the only way that's going to save our butt and save us from probably going bonkers with too many things on our plate. And you know something, I'm going to try to go back to some of y'all and answer some of these comments privately. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Happy to have a dialogue with y'all. And by the way, my Fired Up Fundraising Facebook page has it's a great place to ask me any of these questions. I'm happy to talk about it. But let me give you my take and some tips, okay? Because I would agree with you that there are serious obstacles that hinder your fundraising success. You are smart, you're dedicated, you know what you're doing, yet you're prevented in a way from being able to be successful. And here's the thing, and I'm going to repeat this a couple of times, that one of the biggest issues with major gift fundraising is that people think it's all about asking and all about the money, and your board members are probably terrified of that. And please, we say it over and over and over that it's never about money, it's about changing the world. And I'm going to show you how to frame your fundraising approach so that board members won't be scared off, right? So they will support this as a smart strategy and an efficient strategy. And this came from a survey. 205 people answered my survey, last fall. That what is your biggest challenge? And it's really interesting to look at the word cloud. I like the word door over here in the far right because there are people saying can't get in the door. I got a set of strategies for that too. But let's I would think the 5 major obstacles, one of those is limiting beliefs. And somebody said once, and I love this quote, that fundraising desperately feared and desperately needed. And we should make a joke about that with our board members, because part of my life's work is to help board members feel more comfortable about being involved in fundraising and help them find places where they can be comfortable and where they can be supported. But this is what, your leaders are saying. Did somebody say the F word? Fundraising, that's the F word. And the reason is that people they feel awkward. We're raised not to talk about money. I was raised to be a Southern lady, and you don't talk about other people's money, or your own, because it's so rude. And now that's all I do in my career is talk about other people's money. But people make up all of these stories and myths, particularly about major gifts. They imagine themselves as begging. They imagine themselves as being rejected. Let's see if I can get here we go. The rejection slide showing up, they really imagine that fundraising is cold calls. Your board members are making up these things. And they think that they're supposed to rush in and just blurt out a $100,000 ask. In fact, and board members, if you're listening, I hope that you will understand that when we approach a major donor, that we do so with the utmost carefulness, and we warm up donors, and that we don't really jump into an ask unless we feel like they are ready, and that they are expecting such a conversation. And and I have found with all of my board training that I've done for years that board members really, really enjoy good, solid major gift training that's practical and skills-based, and it's not necessarily about the ask. So, and just call it education, not training, and I think they're much more open to it. And one of the reasons I think is really important in terms of hurdles that we need to educate our leaders of all types about what kind of expectations are really possible in the major gift realm and from one person, especially if there are other if there are other jobs, and so many people have other jobs, right? There are executive directors who are handling this kind of fundraising along with running an organization, or development directors or staffers that have multitude of things on their plate. And I do think that being able to be absolutely realistic about what's doable is absolutely essential for sanity. And you have to be able to push back, I think, at your board members who are trying to get you to, who want you, who say both and, the sense of abundance that, yes, we can do the grand gala with $1 million in sponsorship plus successfully execute all these other activities. But, again, it's not about that money thing. It's about the strategy and about what one person, what kind of goals, financial goals and activity goals can you really put upon one person. People write me all the time about how are they going to get out of the office and how are they going to handle their workload. And I like the strategy of saying to my board members or to my CEO, whoever's setting these strategies, is that I can do this or I can do that. And the expected financial return of this strategy is this amount of money, and the expected return from that strategy is that amount of money. You decide. You set my priorities. And so I think that that's a reasonable way. It's business-like, and it helps avoid the let someone else do it. We all talk about a culture of philanthropy. A lot of people have mentioned that's a holdup, a block, an obstacle, is that people don't understand philanthropy and fundraising and are afraid of it and are not supporting it. Getting everybody to understand what fundraising is all about is the first step toward getting over this let somebody else do it philosophy, because the culture of philanthropy means that there are a bunch of people who embrace fundraising and think it's important, right? And one of the themes that I talk about in terms of limiting beliefs that people really enjoy and really lands with people is this notion of abundance versus scarcity. And let me talk to you, this is what scarcity means to me when I'm working with a board. I've served on like 24 boards. And how many, let's see if you can raise your hand here, how many times have you heard a board member or even fellow fundraising colleagues say, oh, we're not going to be able to be successful, we don't have hungry children, oh, these other organizations are gobbling up all the money in town, and we're just a little old best-kept secret in town, and, the economy is dismal, and they may be roaring nationally, but in our location, it's awful. There's all, tell me in the question box, have you ever heard this? I wish we had a Nerf gun and a Nerf ball to shoot at people who are negative, because everybody's laughing, It's called avoidance. I think there's a psychological notion called avoidance, when you're making up stories that are going to keep you from being successful. I mean, I would like to banish naysaying from every board and every nonprofit in the world. And a quick story, you'll enjoy this. My friends were at my friend who ran the Carolina Ballet for years used to say to me, Gail, my staff says that they can't raise any money because they don't have any hungry children. And then she left the ballet to go run the Girl Scouts, cute little girls, to market to donors. And she said, Gail, my staff says that they can't raise any money because they don't have any free donor tickets to give away and to entertain donors with. And it's sort of like the pie is always greener on the other foot, and that everybody makes themselves so small. And Cecilia says there's money out there. We just need to link the right people to the right need. Absolutely. I've never been a runner, and I've never run a race, thank God. But if I were going to run a race, I would not look on either side of me and think, oh, my God, that lady is look at all those muscles. She's a powerhouse. She's won all these races. And I'd look at the other lady and I'd think, oh, my God, she's like a Goliath. And I'm just like, I'm going to lose right now. I shouldn't even try to run because I'm going to lose. That's what your board members and leaders and colleagues are saying. You've got to banish that. And, I'm making light of some of these things, but that's the way you can do it, is to make light of them so that people don't feel like you're coming right at their face and being confrontational. And, in terms of abundance, here's the North Carolina Symphony. They have 98% donor retention in their upper-level donor annual fund categories, and that includes the 25,000 level. They have awesome donor experiences, and this is the fun, this is the relationship stuff, this is the fun stuff of fundraising. So if you can go from the scarcity mindset, to the idea that we are celebrating our donors and they are a great asset to our organization, then you really are moving along the path toward productivity. And, just another point about this whole notion of, is fundraising about money? Is it about the transaction, or is it about the relationship? These are distinctions that we can sort of use to educate our people and ourselves, and in major gifts, is it about us, or is it about the donor needs? It's actually a marriage between the two, a happy, happy marriage. And my last point about mindset is, my book's called Fired Up Fundraising, and my website and my Facebook page, Fired Up Fundraising. You've got to be enthusiastic and fired up about your cause. And you got to be you can't do it every single day. You don't have that wonderful, expansive energy. And when I was a frontline fundraiser, I would wait until days when I felt really good to make my calls, my phone calls, because you needed a cheerful voice. But I think that Ralph Waldo Emerson said that nothing great was ever accomplished without enthusiasm. So never forget that being fired up is absolutely critical. And, a couple of tips about board members. I absolutely believe that, and I'm happy for you to use these slides anytime and to educate your board and do some training, that there's so many parts of major gift fundraising that are really social and fun. And many board members should be able to find a role for themselves that they can enjoy. And if you just think about this whole cycle of major gifts, you qualify your prospects, and you engage with them to get to know them. And asking is not just one little tiny moment. It's like a series of discussions. So you open the discussion, and then you close and then you after that gift, you go back into deep stewardship mode. And remember, the first gift is never the largest if you do a lovely job with the donor. So putting board members to work in identifying prospects and thanking and cultivating, that's the fun stuff. And that's where they can really, really shine and should be able to shine. So a lot of people said not enough prospects. And so let me give you my tips for finding the major gift prospects you need. And I want to talk about your sleeper prospects. And Catherine Gamble, who's my consulting colleague, and I, we and this is actually and you can see Catherine on some of my Facebook Live videos on our Facebook page. And we do Facebook Live every Wednesday at noon. If you want to join us, it's lots of fun. She believes in the Dorothy School of Fundraising. And you remember Dorothy at Wizard of Oz, who said, "There's no place like home. There's no place like home." And we say to you that your future, you already have all the major gift prospects you need. They're just sleeping inside your donor files. And what I mean by that is that your major gift prospects are donors to you, but they're giving smaller gifts. And the reason that you don't know that their major donor potential is that you haven't qualified them or researched them, and you're treating them like a very small donor, and so they don't have any incentive to self-identify. And Catherine, before she came to work with me and run our consulting practice, she was the internal manager of the North Carolina Museum of Art's $50 million capital campaign. And do you know that Catherine found the lead gift for that campaign from somebody who was giving a member who was a $100 a year member? And somehow Catherine met them. They showed up at an event or something, and they made some noises, or she said they showed signs of having more capacity because Catherine had her radar going round and round. with these prospects, just trying to understand them and listen to them, and she realized that they were doing a huge estate planning project, and they didn't have any heirs. They ended up giving the museum $9.5 million, and that was the lead gift of that capital campaign. So when you're thinking about where to look for your prospects, start with what you have. Start with a group. This is a fundraiser I had at my house in Raleigh a while ago, and there are all these people. Some of these people are major gift prospects right in your pool. So one of the flags that you can use is to consider who's made a substantial gift in the past 18 to 24 months. My good friend and colleague Ellie Jordfall is a senior major gift director at the Lineberger Cancer Center at Chapel Hill, and she you know what she does? She's a 30 plus years. She closes $10 million gifts, and she's way up there in the major gift ranks. But she closes her door, everybody, every other Wednesday afternoon and makes calls to donors. And she said that she's always looking for somebody who writes a $1,000 check out of the blue. And she'll call them up, and she will try to qualify them on the phone, which is, and she's got a whole presentation called Mastering the Art of the Discovery Call. And so what I think you need to do when I'm going to talk a lot more about your prospect list. Your major gift prospect list is a fundamental tool, and it's part of the structure of your overall effort. But you must narrow down your focus, especially if you're a smaller organization. What I mean by that is that you cannot, if you have a lower amount of time to devote to major gifts, you've got to restrict yourself to just the number of prospects you can cultivate. And when I started in fundraising at Duke University, my mentor, the big scary vice president, John Pava, he said to me, he said, Gail, major gift fundraising is like spinning plates on a stick. He said, you can't spin but so many plates. And he said, you just give a little one nudge here and a little one nudge here and a little nudge here. And he said, Gail, what happens if you try to spin too many plates? They all crash and fall down. And I always remembered that. And he said, Gail, when you're ready to close a gift or a donor's ready to give, you gently remove the stick and you harvest the gift. You gently take the plate, and it never breaks, right? And only then can you start spinning another plate. So I think the spinning the plate on the stick analogy is really a smart way to approach your major gift prospect list. And don't forget that women are more generous than men. And I love the slide from the Women's Philanthropy Institute at the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy at Indiana University. Their path-breaking study a few years ago found that when you compared boomer and older women to boomer and older men in the same financial circumstances, those women, that group of women, made for every $100 that men gave, women gave $258. So women give more than twice as much as men. So women give more frequently, they make more gifts, and they also give larger gifts. And I would say sometimes that your ladies are your sleeper prospects, because sometimes the men somehow seem to get more attention, or your attention goes to them, and there may be a lovely little old lady who owns half of your community who loves your organization and would love to have coffee or tea or lunch with you. So think about, lots of times when I'm doing a workshop, I'll put people in small groups. I'll say, come up with your list of sleeper ladies that you may be missing. When you're putting together that prospect list, I like to look at current donors, and also former board members are often neglected potential prospects. And your volunteers, lapsed donors, some of your lapsed donors may have huge potential, and older people in general, I think we need to be looking carefully. And let me show you this slide. In 2014, Chronicle of Philanthropy did an analysis of the age of the top donors. I wish they'd do this again, and we made this chart up. But the average age of the major donors of 2015 was 80 to 89 years old. Your major donor prospects are older. I was just with a consulting client in Philadelphia last week, and we were looking at some of the fundraising materials, and the font was so small. And the designer or the marketing manager is a millennial. And he showed me the piece of material, and I said, gosh, I can't read it. Where are my glasses? And he said, I said, the font's too small. And he said, I don't think the font's too small at all. And I said, well, you're a millennial. Your donors are boomers or older than boomers. So, and he thought twice, and I said the minimum font for fundraising is considered to be 14 point. And designers don't really like that because they like to make pretty things. Cecilia's just saying that she had $1 million lead gift from a woman. Yeah. And so, we don't think that the older people, and especially the older ladies, are our prospects, but they really are. So let me just go in a little bit of technical stuff. I mean, you probably know this about major gifts, but I love the distinction between a suspect and a prospect. A suspect is someone who is not qualified, and you probably have seen this chart a lot of times that we try to find donors or potential donors, prospects who are both have a high likelihood or high interest in our project and also have high capacity. So we're looking for people. We don't want to go after people who have a low capacity who are passionate, or we don't want to go after highly passionate people, or high capacity people who are not that interested, because you're going to be beating your head against the wall. I work a lot with boards, and so they are all really interested in thinking thoroughly about the vocabulary and the approach to major gift fundraising, and the whole notion of educating everybody on what a qualified prospect is really helpful. I like to have a prospect list and a back burner list, and you can park all the people who are not yet qualified on the back burner list, and you can get to them when you can get to them. So you qualify. I teach a lot about donor qualification in all of my work, if you follow my newsletter or read my blog. And, of course, we're always trying to determine their capacity, which is a polite word for wealth, and determine their inclination, because that is that means, like, how are they cold, warm, or hot? How warmed up are they? And so my quick and dirty advice on how to find more major gift prospects: look close to home and start with 30 names. I kid you not. In my major gift coaching program, we start with a 20 or 30 name prospect list, and we go back to basics over and over and try not to spread ourselves too thin. And review prospect lists. You review your donor list, do some screening sessions, consider your former board members and former capital campaign donors who maybe have been neglected. And, formal prospect research is always a good idea. It's not necessary. And I just want to tell you just a tiny bit, this is my tiny commercial, that I do have a major gift coaching program that runs for 10 months every year, and we're just starting to talk about 2019. And what it is that I'm always looking for 40 organizations who are really ready to dive in and make it happen. And they get myself and Catherine as major gift coaches, plus training and a lot of hand-holding and just about everything you need to be successful in major gift fundraising. So the goal is to get 10 asks on the table and to brush up on your major gift skills. And here's our curriculum. And so if you would like to find more about it, you can go to majorgiftcoaching.com. And I'm happy to get on the phone and give you a free strategy session if you want to find out. It's really a matter of fit, and you have to apply, and I have to vet you and interview you and accept you. So it's not like a quick process. We both have to decide if it's the right fit and the right thing to do. So that's my little commercial. So I do want to share with y'all, I want to hear from you now. What's possible from your end with a solid major gift program. If you had an expanded or revamped or juiced up, fired up a major gift program for your organization, what would be possible? I want to hear from some people. How much money is out there? What would be possible for you if you really could make major gift happen? Oh, Melody says the website address. Again, I'm sorry. I don't want to be too much of a commercial, so I didn't want to go too much on that. But Jennifer says that she would have better strategic planning. Regina says she has no idea. Monica said she would have more resources and people to deliver results. Yeah, just think. Our facilities would get refreshed. We would reach more people. We could run our camp for more weeks during the summer. We could build more homes for families. Oh, y'all, this is wonderful. We could become more time to focus on mission. Oh, I love this. We could build a new integrated behavioral health care center. Bless your heart, Melissa. And Lindsay says we can bring food to communities. Wow. So, I think major gifts is really, really, really important, and that's why I spend so much of my career trying to help people master these strategies, because it's possible for you, no matter how big or small your organization is. It is absolutely possible. Gary says we could get more funds to nonprofits in Idaho. Every single person on this call, no matter how large or small your organization is, no matter what your service area is, major gifts are possible for you. Absolutely. I promise you they are. So let's talk about the rest of our obstacles and have some fun. I want to acknowledge that not enough time to devote to major gifts is an absolute essential problem and challenge for people to be successful, because we took some people into the major gift coaching program last year, and the people who were not as successful as we wanted them to be is because they didn't spend the time on it, and they said they got all mixed up with doing other things, and wham, they did not get the ask on the table. So the people, I want to tell you about Brenda Campbell in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She was a participant last year in the coaching group, and she's a CEO of a nonprofit, and she would take a couple of hours, a couple of days a week, every morning at home to make her major gift calls. And her video testimonials on that web address, majorgiftcoaching.com. But she said the only way she was going to be successful, and she raised hundreds of thousands of dollars last year with more on the way this year, was because she got organized to get out of the office. And so, my friends, treat this like the challenge that it really is. It really is a challenge. So here are my tips, right? First of all, I mentioned earlier, you can say to people, I can do this or I can do that. Let's decide where I'm going to focus my attention, and get everybody on board with what you're up to. Get your administrative and back office people to understand that it's your job to be out of the office and having lunch and coffee with donors, and ask them to push you out, right? And I think it's really helpful in the group staff meetings to announce your goal of how many visits you're trying to get done a month, so that everybody knows it's your job to be out there, and enlist the back office team as aides and not critics, because that's an issue in a lot of organizations. And so another obstacle, and a few people mentioned this earlier, don't know how to approach donors. Oh, dear. So how do we approach donors? I showed you this chart earlier, and I like to teach it's sort of a way called facilitating your way to the gift. And what you're doing is that you are the advisor and the coach to your donor. You are the professional representative between the donor's love for your organization, their passion for your work, and your organization itself. So you serve sort of like a stock advisor. You're an advisor. You're a facilitator. You take the approach of Mr. Donor or Ms. Donor, I know you really, really are interested in our ministry. What is your interest area? Let me introduce you to some of our program staff. let me help you find out more about what we do and answer your questions. And if somebody's passionate about your work, they'll be thrilled. And let me tell you a little story. You may know I was a would-be ballet dancer, and I love dance. And once the Carolina Ballet was performing the Nutcracker in Raleigh at the, they would do the big Nutcracker like they do every year, and I would always dress up my little girls, and I would take them to the Nutcracker every year. It's like our annual thing. And one year, y'all, they invited my daughters and me to go backstage during intermission, during the Nutcracker. And, I was bonkers. I was about to weep. I was so excited. There's Sugar Plum Fairy warming up, and she's this ethereal creature, and I'm going, I've never seen anything so beautiful. And my daughter's, like, giving the thumbs up. She's, like, in the 5th grade. She's giving the thumbs up to some dancers. I'll never forget that experience as long as I live. I'll never forget how thrilled I was. And so I'm bonkers about this particular mission, and you've got donors who are bonkers about your work. And you're missing the joyful opportunity to engage with them and bring them joy when you help them learn more about and see your work in action. So take it from me. There's potential there. So let's talk. I would love to talk about creative ways to get in the door. And I'm actually thinking about doing a series of videos and sending them out, 16 different videos on 16 different strategies to get a meeting with your donor. Would you let me know if you'd like that. So I'm really big on the strategy of advice visits. And what I mean by advice visits is that your donor does not want to visit with somebody who's going to blather at them and do all the talking. Your donor thinks that he or she should do the talking, and he or she has something to offer you. And here, quick story, I was visited by this, I used to be a donor to this big national organization, and this new lady came to town, and she was a young woman who was heading up the statewide chapter, called me for a coffee. I said, I would love to meet with you. Well, do you know, this young woman talked at me for 60 minutes, and she did not want to hear one word out of my mouth. And, I could tell her who in Raleigh she should have met with, who would be passionate about her cause, who could open the door for her. I would have set up some meetings for her. I would have helped her with donors. Nothing. She just wanted to talk to me. And so I thought, lady, why are you just sitting here talking? Because I might as well be a mole on the wall, and if you don't want to hear anything back out of my mouth. So I passed that along to remember that donors expect they expect to do the talking. So the old strategy of if you want money, ask for advice, and if you want advice, ask for money is just so, so, so important. So I just think, can I pick your brain? What do you think? I'd love your opinion. I have a lot of posts on my site about the kind of questions you ask with advice visits that really do get you in the door. The donor's going to say no if they think you're making a presentation. I'll tell you that right now. And, my friend Linda Frenette, she approached this lady for an advice visit, and the lady said, don't come see us. We don't have any money to give you, so you might as well not waste your time. And Linda said, I just want to run this program by you and get your input. Well, come on, I'd love to tell you what I think. And Linda walked out with a $10,000 challenge gift without even being asked. She didn't even have to ask. And then my big star of a couple of years ago, my major gift coaching, Indra Loka Animal Group went to see their top donor, and they threw out their presentation and instead decided to ask him for input on their business plan, and they walked out with a $1.5 million challenge gift from him, and they did not ask for it. So these strategies really, really, really work. And what you're doing is that you're asking your donor, what are they interested in? What do they think? What do they want to accomplish with their philanthropy? What do they think you should be tackling? Do they like this program or project of yours? And Patrick Berard at EMA Quebec, he was so funny. He was petrified about making visits. Petrified, and I'd have to hold his hand before he went on a call. And he decided to, there was this huge corporate prospect, And he was that because they were such a big prospect, he was even scareder about calling them, And he decided to make the first visit with this corporate foundation lady just a get-to-know-you visit. All he was going to do was to get to know you and just get some advice from her about the corporation and how they worked. And so, therefore, he was a raving success on the visit, and she became a wild fan of his. And he ended up with a $400,000 gift from them because he took it slow. And he wrote this note, and he said, you have to listen to their story and go with the flow, but don't be shy to propose something. I'm just so proud of people who really take this kind of training and put it to work. And so here's some power questions. If a challenge gift, by the way, Cheryl, is when a donor says, if you can raise $10,000, I'll match it with $10,000. So you are challenged to raise $1 million. And if you can raise that $1 million, you get the $1 million. So a challenge gifts have been researched to be very effective. They're more effective than what you might call a matching gift, even though they're sort of the same thing. But if you present it as a challenge gift, it apparently is more effective. But these are just sample. It would be really fun to brainstorm power questions talking to donors. That would be because there are 1,000 things you can ask them if you're really interested in them as a person. And again, we're always wanting to know what the donor is interested in, and that is my number one objective, is to find out what the donor is interested in. So, just simple ways to get in the door is you can do a thank you visit and drop a holiday gift off at your donor's office. And if they won't see you, you can be gracious, and who knows, maybe they're there. They're certainly going to receive you. Use the advice visit strategy. You can do. I like to use thank you events because if you're having a thank you event for a big gift, you can always invite your donor to that. Or a small. I'm a very big on small socials for organizing social experience to pull VIP donors together. If you can't get a direct appointment, try to use an event as a strategy to get in front of your donor. And so let's talk about obstacle number 5. People say they need a structure and training and what to do and say. And so let's just talk a little bit about the structure, because from my standpoint, you do not have a major gift program without structure. And here are the 5 elements. With the 2 absolutely essential, I highlighted the 2 absolutely essential structure components that you can't function without them. And so first, let's talk about a major gift team. A major gift team. What you need to do is to pull together a tiny little group of trusted insiders to help you with figuring out who your prospects are and what your next steps or your moves management needs to be for all the prospects. You've got to have a team who you can meet with regularly to brainstorm. And you can also assign everybody on the team can have a portfolio, and you can assign different groups. Your CEO can take on 10 prospects. Your development director can handle 50 maybe, or somebody else can handle 10. And so people have a mini portfolio or a large portfolio of 100 to 150 prospects. And you can assign a dollar goal to people's portfolio. This is how you establish metrics for your major gift program, and so that it's not going to be what we call fuzzy. People think major gift fundraising is fuzzy, and the reason it's fuzzy is because there are no metrics and there's no structure. So structure will save you over and over with major gifts. And also, you got to have some what I call funding priorities. A lot of people call them donor offers. But the Carolina Ballet, they took me backstage. I'm weeping. I'm weak at the knees. I'm so impressed. If I were a philanthropist, the fundraiser would call me back and say, I'd love to come visit. I say, I'd love to meet with you. I want to talk about my experience. It was so wonderful. I'm so grateful. And then the representative from the ballet would say, well, we're trying to bring in a choreographer from New York City next year. And we were wondering if you might want to help fund that. And I'm going, oh, my gosh, what a great idea, yes. So, the fundraiser had a project and had a funding priority to run by the donor. So it's really essential. And by the way, Lindsay, would you count board members as part of the team? Team members are not all responsible for soliciting, and board members, it depends on your board members whether they should be part of your major gift team or not. They need to be savvy, they need to know what they're doing, and they need to be trusted because this stuff is so confidential. And then, your prospect list. I mean, this is just an example of a prospect list. And prospect, by the way, Melissa, most major gifts are restricted unless you make a deliberate pitch for an unrestricted gift. But I want to finish this, and I only have 3 minutes, so I'm going to move along. Your prospect list is you cannot have a major gift program without a prospect list that's rated and qualified. It's got to have numbers next to people's names, and it's got to have a next step next to people's names, right? And you need, number 4 for structure, I like written cultivation plans for your top 20 or 30 donors. Boom, boom, boom. What are we going to do next step with this donor? What is the donor interested in? And what might be the dollar potential for this lovely donor who loves us so much? So, one of the things about creating cultivation plans is that you can plan out step by step by step. What are our moves? I hate the word moves because it sounds aggressive, but when I was at a staff fundraiser, I had my top 10 list that I approached I approached my top 10 people once a month, and then I had my next 20 list, and I approached them every other month, and then I had a next 30 list, and I touched them once a quarter. So that was my little mini moves management system that was very, very effective for me. And then, so the structure includes your prospect list, your team, your cultivation plan, and it also includes a monthly review of goals and progress. So if you're not having a strategy session with your little team at least once a month, I would say you do not have a major gift program. You don't have a major gift program because you don't have any grounding for what you're trying to accomplish. So here are the 5 obstacles. And so I'd love to do a quick wrap-up with you. Tell me your key takeaway from this webinar. What really landed for you as a wrap-up? What was your key takeaway, something that you heard today that you think you can maybe implement tomorrow? We talked about limiting beliefs, advice meetings, ask for opinions, written cultivation plans, structure. A lot of people love structure. Chantel says she's ready to get out there and talk to people. It's relationships. Yeah. I can do this or I can fundraise. Thank you. Structure. I need my list of 30. Yeah, advice visit. Yeah, it's possible, y'all. It's really possible. I would love to talk to you if you're interested in talking, dedicated each week to work on it. Jenny liked the sleeper prospects. Melissa says she's going to carve out and reserve time. I promise you, Melissa, this will not get done if you don't carve out time because we are overwhelmed with too much crap on our plate. Calling our donors and having that a monthly essential meeting. Great, Barbara. Love that. Y'all are really smart, okay? And y'all can do this. You can do this, my friends. I'd love to take a few questions. And I want to thank you so much for allowing me into your office and your inbox or your telephone today. I love talking about major gifts with smart fundraisers who really want to change the world. It's my honor, literally it's my honor to support you and your cause. Whatever I can do to support you, I'd love to. Join, I have a Friday newsletter on Friday mornings, and I have a Facebook live broadcast we do on Wednesdays at noon, and would love to connect with you. So I would love to take some questions. Stephen, how are we doing on time?
Oh, we're good on time if you are. I know we started late because of me, but if you can hang around for a few minutes, I'm willing to as well.
Yeah. Are donors offended when you call them when they haven't given you their number? I think if you have the phone numbers, if you have the donor's phone number, you can certainly be polite about it and say, this is so-and-so from our organization. I'm just calling to thank you. You've got to start a conversation, and you've got to be gracious. You've got to be polite. You've got to be courteous. You've got to show up as an interesting person. And, the donor will meet you somewhere, and they'll decide whether they're going to spend any time with you or not, right? Is it better to call or stop by when you haven't heard back from a donor? You have to be realistic about your donors. They say that only 1 in every 3 donors wants to really have face-to-face contact. So realize that some donors are avoiding you for a reason, but you can get in front of them if you can get them to an event. I have found myself that. Planned gifts can definitely be considered major gifts. Absolutely, can and should be considered. Brock wants to know how often a good donor should be contacted, and how do you know if you're becoming annoying? There are multiple ways to contact a donor, through calls or written or emails. I think as long as you're cheerful and courteous, you can follow up with your donor. But if your donor's going to ignore you, they say 7 times is finally the limit. But just try to be aware of your donor's signals. And they say that donors, if you ask a donor their communications preferences, and remember, if you're trying to get in touch with your donor and they won't see you, or it depends on, does it sound like you're going to do all the talking? Does it sound like you're all about you and not about them? There's a fascinating article last week about how a woman donor has been treated by male fundraisers and CEOs. How about that, right? So remember that it's how you come across that makes or breaks whether your donor is going to be willing to connect with you. And so I tell you what, I'm going to take some of these offline. I'd love to answer these. And Stephen, I can hopefully post these on my Facebook page as Q&A.
Yeah.
I think it'd be lots of fun.
That's a great idea, and I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah, I was just going to say people should definitely join that Facebook group. They should take you up on the coaching calls. Please visit firedupfundraising.com. Lots of really awesome resources. I mean, as you can see today, Gail is one of the best in the business. So thanks for being here, Gail. This is really cool to have you.
Somebody said the Facebook group is Fired Up Fundraising.
Yeah, you'll find it. If you type in those words, you'll get connected with Gail. I love the idea of former board members. I had never heard that before. That makes complete sense. That may have been worth the price of admission alone right there.
Oh, you're so funny. Well, listen, everybody, if you're in the U.S., I hope you're going to have a happy Thanksgiving this week, and it was fun to spend an hour with you today.
Yes. Thank you all for being here. We've got a cool webinar coming up next week, a week from Thanksgiving Day, storytelling and last-minute fundraising. So if you have not quite completed your whole year-end campaigns, or maybe you're looking for something extra to add in, join us. It's a really good one. Vanessa Chase-Lockshin, she is super awesome, really smart, always has great advice. So I hope you join us for that one. That's our next webinar in about, 10 days from now, since it's Thanksgiving week. So we'll call it a day there. Like Gail said, have a happy holiday this week if you're here in the States. If you're Canadian, you already had your Thanksgiving. That's okay. We hope you have a good week too. Look for an email from me. I will send you the recording and the slides here in just a couple of hours. You'll get those. And hopefully we'll see you again next week. So have a good rest of your week, and we will talk to you again soon. Bye now.
Y'all take care. Bye-bye.